Today we are going to go over some basics with damage over time, and then at the end I'm going to discuss very in-depth Rogue's poisoned weapon damage. So after watching this video, you may change how you build Poison Weapon Rogue. If you don't understand Will's interaction with buff and debuff duration and how it affects tick damage, I recommend watching this video first before moving on. This page covers both damage and healing over time, but for the sake of the video, I am just going to discuss damage over time. I'm also going to abbreviate it with dot damage. Dot damage is damage that is dealt over a period of time in the form of a status. Status is an effect that usually lasts a set of time, making the target either stronger or weaker. So a very simplified way to calculate dot damage would be calculating the total damage and then dividing it by the number of ticks, which is usually the same as the number of seconds. If the ability's number of ticks does not align with the number of seconds, it will explicitly say. Otherwise, you can assume that the number of ticks equals the number of seconds. Nearly all dots have 50% scaling or attribute bonus ratio. It is important to note that the number of ticks affected by the target's buff and debuff duration is rounded down to the nearest integer or whole number. These sources are not considered to be dot or hot. I will be moving on to the next section. Now I'm going to briefly go over rounding. Damage can do decimal amounts, so you can have decimal health. All decimal stats can have an error of plus or minus 1 to 0.1. Buffs and debuffs are not rounded. However, dots and hots are the exception, and they are rounded down to the nearest integer. For example, if you take Wizard Zap, it has a tick of damage that occurs over 1 second. If you have -1 debuff duration, it should effectively remove that tick entirely. I would like to note that there is an interaction in the game that this cannot be done reliably. If you're curious to learn more about how debuff interaction with ticks can be inconsistent, I encourage you to go watch my video down below. I have 2 examples showing how buff and debuff rounding works. For the first example, Forceful Shot is supposed to last 8 seconds. However, if you have less than 15 will, it will last for less than 8 seconds. So let's say you have less than 15 will, and it brings you down to 7.23 seconds instead of the full 8 seconds. Your Forceful Shot will last for 7.23 seconds and not round down or up. It will be that exact number. However, if you have Curse of Pain, which is a dot damage, and it's supposed to last for 8 seconds, and you have -1% debuff duration, you would lose a single tick of damage because the threshold for the 8 seconds would no longer be met. When it comes to maximum health, you can have decimal health, which is then rounded up. I will note in my calculations that health got rounded up most of the time, with the occasional rounding down. There seemed to be a margin of error of about 0.5, so occasionally 0.45 rounded down when 0.42 rounded up. So that's just something to be aware of. These formulas can be used to understand dot and hot. So if you look over to the left, important vocabulary to understand these equations are value refers to damage or healing. Interval is the frequency in which a tick occurs, and the floor is not going to be a number, it is going to indicate rounding down. So if you get to this part of the equation, floor is telling you that if this number is, let's say, 8.9, then you need to take it down to 8. If you notice, I have 2 different graphs with stars next to them. The bottom chart's equations are the same equations in this chart where it's starred. The difference is the bottom chart are formulas simplified for 1 second, 1 tick, dot, / hot. If your dot or hot does not utilize 1 second intervals, then you can use these ones confidently. Otherwise, I recommend simplifying it for yourself and using these if you have 1 second intervals. As a side note, if you haven't watched this video already and you don't understand how to calculate your weapon damage, I recommend watching this first. Otherwise, you'll not understand how I calculated the initial instance of damage when I pierced them. One moment, please. SDF有冇嘢講？真㗎，呢次大人驗呀 YouTube yang寫問咗個inunde，咁你就冇就 over time，就darugo SEO。yung jinja ma biya to kumugi wala ayo to ke asyang gyo jojak yung hanin yunje ma yang gyo ajugo anigo ge. Aji. Yunde yung wiki yang gange galing maseo tachasuram han kirang wa jaju an matinian na ara. Niyan bilede game mekarem jom bakawose jangyam be borio yago. SDF niyon jingam ma jangyam kong jinje. Adasio yang yajugo haja. Bye. Alright, here we are comparing a rogue versus a fighter with poison weapon damage. The fighter is in Squire gear. And if you look up here, poison weapon damage deals 4 neutral magical base damage over 4 seconds. The poison can stack up to 5 times at once, and all stacks refresh when adding more stacks. This means if all 4 ticks go through on one hit, then it's going to reset and you're not going to be able to get all 5 of the stacks in. Neutral magic damage is when the magic damage is not affected by magic resist. I will note that in game, when I tested this, true magic seemed to cut through magic resist when additional magic did not. I'm sure I could do a lot more testing with this, but I've already taken 2 weeks to make this video and I have had a really hard time getting people to help me test this. It's been too time consuming, very financially burdensome in game. So if you'd like to test it for yourself, I encourage you to do it, but I have reached my limits of testing this. As you can see, I have the control, true Phys, and true magic. As you can see here, true Phys does not impact ticks, though it does impact the flat damage done by the pierces. True magic, on the other hand, does not impact the pierce, but does impact the tick damage. I'm wondering if you notice anything special with true magic and the tick damage. Does this seem similar to what we just learned with Rupture? Originally, I would have looked at these numbers and thought, yeah, that looks about right. However, there was something that I found in game testing, and I only know this because I tested it so many times. This does not line up with the equation that we've been using. So while I was extremely frustrated trying to figure out why the numbers were not aligning in-game with the calculator, I did a lot more digging, and I had a lot of people review my work and test it themselves. And this is what we found. And ta-da! A new equation was born. This was extremely exciting for me because I had spent so much time testing it. People had robbed me in game. I had been completely defeated. I had used so much money. I had used so much time, and I felt like I was not going anywhere with any of my results. However, I got some help from some really amazing, smart math people, and they helped me figure out this new equation. For additional and true magic, when using the poison weapon stacking mechanic on Rogue, this equation will give you the numbers that the game will give you. I will say that this equation does not account for magic resist, so you will have to do that for yourself. True magic seems to ignore magic resist, while additional does not. Do you notice anything special with this equation? In case you don't see what's very special about this equation, let me show you. Okay, so we have our new equation, and this is the true magic information that we had on the previous page, and this is the total damage that the true magic is actually doing. Now, if you look to the right, this is our false damage. In other words, these are the numbers we believed we would get with the old equation that I showed you with Rupture. Now, the equation with Rupture is still valid. It is only valid, though, with spells that are not stackable, such as Rogue's Poisoned Weapon. So this new equation is for stackable abilities. Now, if you look at the original damage that we thought and the actual damage that we were getting in game, utilizing this equation, you can see that the numbers do not line up exactly. So if we go tick by tick on stack 1, the number is the same. However, when we go to stack 2, the number varies by 0.5. When we go to stack 3, the number is different by 1. And then when we go to stack 4, it is now different by 1.5. By stack 5, with this equation, we are up by a total of 2 damage. Again, this was discovered because when I was in-game testing it, these were the numbers that I was getting, and these were the numbers I was expecting. So this is how this equation came to be. So to better understand this equation, if we look at the X, this represents the stacking. So because it stacks, it then adds on or compounds to the tick. If this is a little harder for you to understand, I totally get it. I had a hard time understanding at first, so I made a little picture to help you understand. So at stack 1, your 1 true magic is 1 true magic, such as right here. However, when you go to stack 2, your 1 true magic then turns into 2 true magic. On stack 3, your 1 true magic then turns into 3 true magic. This is really important because our true magic is compounding, it's stacking, it's scaling. True magic is really strong on Poison Weapon because it goes up, higher up than we thought it was going. So if you increase your true magic here, these will only go up even higher. So to summarize, because Poison Weapon stacks 5 times, your true magic is also stacking with each tick. Therefore, you're getting more use out of your true magic as you apply more stacks. I'll now be moving on to the next section. This is a rogue versus a fighter, and I wanted the fighter to be as tanky as possible, so I gave him 65% PDR and 170 HP. I will also note the target only has 15 will. If you look down here, This indicates the damage that you do on the pierce. And the brown right here is the damage per tick. So if there are 4 ticks and you do 1.625 damage a tick, you will do 6.5 damage overall. Over here, I did a few examples with 5 true magic, 5 true physical, 7 true physical, and 7 true magic. If we do this for each example with 2 ticks between each pierce and then letting each tick run its course on the 5th stack, this will be the HP that remains. This is where it gets interesting because if you look at the 5 true magic, 5 true physical, 7 true physical, and 7 true magic, you will see that with the layout that I have, the HP is the exact same. So that begs the question, which one's better? Well, this is what I've concluded. If you're going melee against some squishy classes, such as a wizard, 5 true physical will be a little bit more effective than true magic. However, if you're wanting to go aerial or mosquito rogue, true magic will be a little bit better with your throwing knives and hand crossbow. It's important for you to know, though, if you're going to do the true magic mosquito build, it's important for you to keep your stacks up and going, otherwise you're not getting the full effects of your true magic. Additionally, if you get more ticks in, and my examples I did 2 ticks per pierce, if you get more than 2, true magic will be doing more, but that's assuming you're able to keep your stacks up. With the recent nerf with hand crossbows, it will be harder for you to keep your stacks up, so that's something to keep in mind. So to summarize, True Phys and True Magic on Rogue's Poison Weapon Damage both have their benefits. If you want to play it safe and whittle someone down, True Magic is the way to go as long as you keep your stacks up. If you want to do hand-to-hand combat, True Physical will be more effective. I have one very important final request of you, and that would be to join my Discord and join my bun testing channel. This would help me make these videos far faster than I currently am, because a big reason I'm not able to make these videos as fast is because people are not usually available when I need them to test. So if I have more people, I have a higher chance of being able to test them when I need to get it tested. So if you can join my Discord, join the bun testing channel, and help me make these videos, that would be so helpful. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you again in the future. Take care. I'm almost finished, so.